Fearless on Outkick and a Fox News contributor, and Jessica Tarlov, co-host of The Five. Great to have both of you with us today. And we just got to hear from the man who's going to be in charge of this effort in Washington, D.C. Earlier today, we heard from Joe Scarborough, who had this to say about the conflicting notions about whether or not this is necessary. Let's watch.
So many people have been calling me over the past couple of days going, you know, Washington should have gotten involved years ago. This place is dangerous. It's a mess. It's a wreck and whatever. And then they'll go on Twitter, go, this is the worst outrage. These are all Democrats who said, you know, our friends won't walk more than 3 blocks in D.C. at night. We're glad the crime rates are going down, but there is no sense of security for people who've been living in that city for 30 years.
No sense of security in D.C. Jessica, what do you say to that?
I say that crime is a problem in D.C., at least to some degree. 51% of people who live there think it's an extremely serious or very serious problem. You saw that in the reaction of Mayor Muriel Bowser, who said maybe it'll be a good thing to have an increased police presence. That doesn't mean that this is the way that they should have gone about it. And that was also contained in the police chief's remarks and the mayor's remarks. It is within his rights to do this for 30 days. We'll see if Congress reauthorizes it to continue going. But he has this obsession with controlling every facet of American life. And at the same time, he's doing things that make it harder for D.C. to keep their streets safe. They took $1 billion out of the D.C. budget. Why aren't we talking about that? He could work together with Muriel Bowser, who seems pretty compliant, right? That she wants to do business with him, to talk about some of the things that Judge Pirro was raising about being able to sentence juveniles, for instance.
Well, that's the city council.
New
New York has the same problem. I mean, Eric Adams has tried to do a lot with the city council.
If Donald Trump started trying to take charge of Republican-run cities, and they exist, go to Oklahoma City, right, and talk to them about the violence there. He never says anything about that. He doesn't talk about murder rampages in red states. He's only targeting blue states. And the fact that he ignores the statistics, and Kash Patel snuck in there, right, with the decline in the murder rate. And we have the video of Donald Trump from just back in May touting the 25% decrease in crime there. The stats don't align with the actions.
Here's the problem. Well, here's the problem, though. And Tomi, I want to get you in here. The numbers are what they are, and there's all this discrepancy about whether or not they reflect reality. But the problem is that people definitely don't feel safe. And when you talk to this young 21-year-old mom, as I did yesterday, if you're president of the United States, you look at this and say, we got to step in. There's something that we can do to make this a safer place. But please respond to Jessica's criticisms there, Tomi.
Well, I'd also tell Jessica this. You can come to a red state or a red city, and if we have a crime problem, I would welcome President Trump to help solve that problem for us, because I personally want to feel safe and secure. I've never been anywhere where I wish there was less security or fewer police officers, I can tell you that. And Democrats, if they're honest with themselves, they agree with that. But the problem is this desire to be anti-Trump everything has completely hijacked Democrat sensibilities and even has hijacked their mental capacity to understand that this is a Democrat city in D.C. It is made up of mostly Democrats. President Trump wants to step in to make a city of mostly Democrats feel more safe and more secure in their communities. And this whole notion that Democrats always say, well, we don't like the way he's going about it. We don't like his tone. Well, he gets results. He steps in. He takes action. Unfortunately, these Democrat-run cities are not sufficient at tackling the problem. So President Trump is going to step in where he needs to keep these cities from being overrun by a culture of lawlessness, or in the case of L.A., from being burned to the ground. This president is a man of action, not simply task forces
You lived in
L.A.,
and you know that those protests were in a three-block radius, and those National Guard troops sat around on their butts until they were released.
Here's the deal. 30 days to see if there's a change, and the president does have the right to do it, and we'll see if it works. It's a test period over the course of 30 days, and then we'll regroup and we'll talk about whether or not there were some good strides made here. We'll see. Jessica Tarlov, Tomi Lahren, thank you very much for joining me today. Great, guys. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.